Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to this quote-unquote Christmas special edition of the Hot Tag here on GoIt.net. Thanks for joining us as always here on Sunday, December 23rd. Just a couple of days to go now until Christmas gets started. And yes, indeed, we are still here presenting this bi-weekly podcast because the end of the world didn't, in fact, take place. I'm Adam Stephen Kelly, as always, and I am joined by...
Ed Kelly. Merry Christmas to all our listeners.
And this is going to be a jam-packed episode of the show as we take a look at the year in review, the year that was in the world of professional wrestling, and of course preview what we think is going to take place and what we know will take place as the new year gets started and we enter 2013. But we'd also like to begin this show by issuing a bit of an apology. We did promise you an interview with Rob Feinstein to close the year, but unfortunately due to scheduling issues we've been unable to bring that to you this week. But we do plan on rescheduling that as soon as we can, and we look forward to bringing you that interview in the new year, as well as many other interviews that we've got lined up for the new year. So it's been quite an eventful year in professional wrestling, 2012, and well, I guess the best way to start would be with the sort of biggest and best moments of the year in wrestling, and specifically TNA and WWE.
Okay, so Adam said we're going to do a yearly roundup of the best things that happened during the wrestling calendar for both companies. But we're going to start looking at the WWE greatest moments of the year and what things that we personally enjoyed. We were going to do some TNA moments of the year, but to be honest, they're a bit few and far between, so we concentrated on WWE. And let's start off with the return of The Rock, the return of the great one this year. Of course, we had The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania, which was actually a fantastic match. The Rock really pulled out all the stops of this one. He turned up in tremendous shape. And also what made this, not only was the wrestling match a fantastic match, it's also the great build-up to it as well. There was so much build-up for this one to hype it. It was, all round a really good thing, Adam.
Yeah, The Rock's return. Of course, he made his in-ring return at Survivor Series 2011 in that tag team match where he teamed up with John Cena. But, of course, it was all part of the build-up to WrestleMania 28. On the build-up to their match, and I would consider Rock versus Cena to be the second biggest match, in terms of spectacle in WrestleMania history, behind the Rock versus Hogan. But there were some great segments on the road to this match, and the match did deliver. And I was quite surprised that the Rock did actually was victorious at the end of this one. But I think this is definitely. Well, like I said, second biggest WrestleMania match of all time, in my opinion. So, to me, this is the biggest match of the year, but not necessarily the best, as we will go into a little bit later.
It also showed that the wrestling fans aren't as fickle as we thought they might be as well, because, we thought The Rock was going to have a lot of comeback, obviously, from leaving the wrestling to go into his movie career. But the fans, absolutely loved The Rock still, and he still had that pull and that vibe about him. And the fans took to him, and they accepted him back into the wrestling world, and they didn't sort of shun him out and boo him for his wrestling career. So that was good to see as well.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because The Rock he embraced his WWE return with open arms. I mean, he didn't look like he was just just doing it. He really did look into it, which is always good. So I think fans just reciprocated to what they saw in The Rock in his return. And
also, we're going to look at this later, but The Rock's going to have obviously a big impact, we think, on the wrestling world in the year 2013. So we'll go into that more later. Okay, another return this year was the return of the next big thing, Brock Lesnar. He returned earlier in the year, and he had quite a big impact.
Yeah, no longer the next big thing, but I guess the big thing. There were so many rumours around WrestleMania weekend that Brock Lesnar had just signed with the WWE again. Everyone was expecting him to appear at WrestleMania, but of course that didn't happen. It was the next night on Raw, confronting John Cena and hitting him with the F5, the first F5 scene in WWE in 8 years. Of course, he left after the night after WrestleMania 20. So here he is back in WWE, and he had 2 matches this year.
Definitely, I liked personally as a quite a fan of Brock Lesnar. I would like to see more, more matches and more segments of him. Certainly, if not matches, use him a bit more, because I think it was obviously only a 1-year contract, but I think it was quite a sizable payday for him. So it was nice if he'd been around a bit more this year. But it's hopefully next year will be about more.
Yeah, we've got very limited dates on his contract, so.
That's right. 2012 also became the launch of some new WWE shows. They launched the main event. Florida Championship Wrestling became NXT. WWE debuts of NXT stars included The Shield and Big E Langston, and I'm sure they're going to have a huge part to play next year. Obviously, The Shield this year, Adam, had a great effect.
Yes, The Shield's certainly making quite an impact already in WWE, only debuting at the tail end of November. And Big E Langston, of course, last week on Raw, debuting on WWE TV. WWE main event, I've been enjoying pretty much every single episode. I mean, it's kind of like a condensed version of Saturday night's main event, but it's a good show. And FCW, the developmental territory, becoming NXT. NXT getting a reboot, and I've watched every single episode of NXT. I enjoy it. It's something, although it's of course it's WWE. It's interesting seeing the new talent who are going to come up to the main roster.
This year we saw the 1000th episode of WWF/WWE Raw, starting in 1993. Obviously, it's been a fantastic show, very popular show, number one wrestling show obviously in the world now. It's obviously had to batter competition off from WCW in the late 90s, early 2000s. So that was a hell of an achievement for WWE. And we also saw the 3-hour Raws coming to place this year.
Yeah, Raw 1000 marked the first of the 3-hour Raws. Raw 1000, of course, was really, really good. Nice to see some of the old faces back again. And of course on the build-up to Raw 1000 as well, the angles with Heath Slater, we see Rikishi, Diamond Dallas Page, Psycho Sid, Rikishi, Doink, who practically see every week anyway. But it was nice to see them get matches, and Vader, of course, so I think probably had the best match out of them all. But yeah, Raw gone to 3 hours, which is a pretty historic thing, and interesting to see how the WWE has changed since Raw went to 3 hours. There's been declining ratings, in the last few months.
It's good as well because it gives them a chance to to expose more talent to us, doesn't it? Because rather than the same old faces every week, some of the up and coming superstars have able to make an appearance here and there, and it gives us a preview of what's up and coming in the world of WWE.
Yeah, it was been good and bad, really. I mean, 3 hours is a very, very long time for a wrestling show. I mean, you think a pay-per-view is 3 hours, and you buy a pay-per-view, you usually get about 2 hours and 45 minutes before it goes off the air. So just under 3 hours, really. That's the usual case. But Raw usually overruns by about 10 minutes, so you get about 3 hours and 10 minutes solid, which is a bit long for just a free TV show. It has been good though to see talent, and it has been good for the actual quality of wrestling, because there's the matches have gone so much longer. It's actually good to see a match that doesn't just last 3 minutes and a match that lasts 20 minutes, for example, which we've been seeing a lot on SmackDown and also main event.
Definitely. Something obviously very, very recently happened, but we are very pleased to announce it on here, was the return, only maybe briefly, we're not sure, of Ric Flair. He was at the Slammies and had a slight feud with CM Punk, but it's so good to see him back in the WWE arena, because since he's left, there's been a bit of a void there, really. Obviously, Ric Flair leaving any organisation would leave a void that's hard to fill. But I'm really glad to see him back in the picture.
Yeah, of course. He was in TNA for a couple of years, and that didn't really do a lot for him. And I don't think he really did a lot for TNA, to be honest. They didn't really use him correctly, and they had issues and whatever. But it's nice to see Flair back in WWE, and although he's not going to go back in the ring again, he seems not too shy of getting physical, obviously getting into a bit of a fight with CM Punk, but of course it's good to see the Nature Boy back in WWE, and hopefully we see him again very, very soon.
Yeah, I think TNA, Ric Flair's obviously going to be, if not one of the greatest superstars ever to wear a pair of wrestling boots. But TNA for me watered him down a bit, because they really underused him, and when they did use him, they didn't do the right things with him. They paired him with AJ Styles, which I think was a terrible decision, because it didn't do anything for AJ, because AJ was the characters were so different. When they did make him wrestle there, they made a bit of a fool of him, and they made him. He looked in TNA, he looked an old man, whereas WWE he still looked like the wrestler Ric Flair. So going back, but he says no more wrestling, but I can hear the chants now, the fans saying one more match, one more match. We'll have to wait and see, but, never say never in this business.
Yeah, well, the thing, I think you put the nail on the head right there with, the comparisons between his runs in WWE and TNA. I mean, up until his final match at WrestleMania 24 against Shawn Michaels, the career on the line match that he lost. Up until that exact match, it was all about Flair being, the best of all time, being such a great wrestler, even at his age. And then he goes to TNA, and it basically he became a parody of himself. And all his matches were about flopping on the mat and just sort of really weak comedy and being a shadow of his former self, which wasn't good to see Flair used in such a capacity. But there you go.
One superstar that has been used quite well this year and has had a hell of a push, and he's also been referred to as the next Goldberg, which is should be taken as a compliment, is of course the phenomenal rise of Ryback. He's had a quite a stellar year. He didn't win the WWE title, which was we thought was on the cards, but he's certainly going to be in the picture, and he's surely going to have a hell of a run in 2013.
Yeah, Ryback, kind of sort of an accidental main eventer, an accidental superstar. Of course, Ryback, for the past year has been, basically in enhancement matches, let's say, beating two people at once, beating local talent and sort of lower card superstars in the WWE roster. And he was thrust into the main event as a result of John Cena's injury, which took him out of Hell in a Cell, which was quite unexpected to see Ryback given such an opportunity. But the fans have somewhat embraced him, and I enjoy Ryback just because he looks, he's not the most gifted athlete, let's say, not the most technical of wrestlers, but he's a powerhouse. He's good at being a powerhouse, and he looks the part. He looks like he could rip your head off. He's making
the most of what God's given him, really, isn't he? He's not technical wrestler. He's not a pretty wrestler as such, but he's what they've actually what he's been blessed with is his brawn, his size, his strength, and he's using it, isn't he? He's using it well.
Yeah, what they've given him to work with is exactly what he can do, and Ryback is this monstrous killing machine essentially, and that's what he is. He's very fit. He fits naturally into that. So I don't have any problem with it. There's always these Goldberg comparisons, which again is a kind of a compliment, but.
Yeah, I know, going what you said then about Goldberg, the Goldberg chance, but if Ryback can have 10% of the success that Goldberg's had in Goldberg's very short wrestling career, really, then he'll be laughing, because, Goldberg was very much the same, a big guy, a powerhouse, destroyed the competition, had a streak, so all the signs are good for him.
Yeah, and I kind of, I think we've mentioned this before, but the whole Goldberg chance, okay, it was kind of funny for the first week, but now they keep on going, it's kind of annoying. It's as annoying as the Albert chance with Tenzai. But again, we'll go into that later.
Another superstar who's had a hell of a year this year, and it all started last year in 2011, and it hasn't stopped since, is of course CM Punk. He is now into his second year as the WWE champion, and he's now gone heel, which I think has only added to his success. He is a fantastic heel, and of course Paul Heyman's been put with him as well, which will only help him, and very interesting 2013 coming up for CM Punk, Adam.
Yes, CM Punk, the whole heel turn which started at Raw 1000 to close the show when he attacked The Rock. CM Punk kind of broke out on the independent scene for his work as a heel, as many will know from seeing his new DVD, or his recent DVD. But CM Punk's been doing some excellent work this year as a heel. It took a couple of weeks because of the fact he was pretty much the biggest babyface on the roster, apart from John Cena, and then suddenly to do this surprise turn, literally overnight, taken a few weeks for fans to sort of embrace him as a heel, but they've really taken the bait now, and he's doing some excellent work, and yes, it will definitely be good to see how he fares in 2013. Although I suspect his run as champion is coming to an end. He's scheduled to face The Rock at the Royal Rumble. Yes, his championship may be more in jeopardy in the next few weeks as it has been in his over a year-long reign. But I think CM Punk really stood out in 2012, just like he did in 2011.
Well, he's been a credit, hasn't he, to the title. He's made the title mean something this year. A bit, with the heel sense, a bit like sort of a Ric Flair thing in a way, where he's been the bad guy. Gets beaten up, gets a few angles now where, like, with Vince McMahon, he had the fight with Vince McMahon, where he's got, gets the tar beaten out of him, but it always seems to leave with the championship title, which is most important. Okay, probably one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest, of 2012 was, of course, the shocking news that Jerry Lawler had a heart attack live on Raw. And what was the good news was his fantastic and amazing recovery, and of course he's now returned, which is great news.
Certainly, quite possibly, the undisputed greatest moment of 2012, seeing Jerry Lawler's return to the ring, to commentary on Raw, and his return speech. It's just an excellent feel-good moment on Raw. Of course, it was quickly interrupted by CM Punk and the heart attack angle, which has become, I guess, very controversial, which we discussed at the time. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with a moment like that, and certainly a very memorable moment which people will remember for years to come. Absolutely,
and the action's not going to stop there, because next year we've got some brilliant things to look forward to in the world of wrestling. Obviously, TNA going to have all their events again, their pay-per-views to look forward to. Let's hope next year they can TNA can look at this year and look at their mistakes, because this year they have made some pretty big balls up, really, and we weren't really sure which way the company was going, what's happening, and they change everything every minute. So let's hope that TNA can look back at this year, and next year they could think, well, we need to do something and improve this dramatically.
Well, they got rid of Vince Russo, which was quite a big improvement. The quality of the product instantly, almost day and night change. The quality of the product was raised. In terms of TNA, there hasn't really been much noteworthy things. They're running the Oasis and 8 storyline at the moment, which hasn't been the best thing ever. And TNA went live on Thursday nights.
That's right. I mean, on Thursday, at least they weren't, in direct competition with, WWE, which is one thing, because they tried it before, didn't they?
Yeah.
It bombed, didn't it?
Yeah, failed miserably, and the ratings are ever declining for TNA on Impact Wrestling on Thursday night. So we'll have to see how that fares in 2013. But it's like, people always say, TNA, there's so much room to grow, but I think TNA has kind of reached its peak now. I think I mentioned this in the last episode. People always talking about the possibility of TNA possibly overtaking WWE one day, and I think, no chance at all. I mean, if you think WWE's ratings are declining, how's TNA, their ratings are declining? How's TNA as a company faring compared to WWE? It's elementary, really. I enjoy TNA sometimes. Not the biggest fan of the product, but it kind of blows my mind when people make comments such as that.
Yeah, I mean, it will not happen. I guarantee this now. I'm 31 and my brother's 22 here. It will not happen. TNA will not become the number one wrestling organisation in our lifetimes. It will just not happen. The fact that both companies are obviously losing ratings over the last couple of years, maybe that's just the wrestling in general. Perhaps the popularity is declining. I mean, we went to a live Raw back in April in the UK at the O2 in London, and we actually mentioned then about the empty seats in the arena, and normally that would be an absolute guaranteed sellout, especially in the UK. Perhaps it's a bit like football in this country, where price of a ticket now, where you can watch the now you can watch a wrestling event, WWE Raw, now for 3 hours on the Monday, 3 hours for free. Whereas opposed to paying many dollars, many pounds to go and watch a live event, when you can watch it for free in the comfort of your own home. So maybe that has something to do with it, with the way that the economies across the world are changing and people haven't got as much disposable income now. Maybe that has something to do with it. But TNA has to shockingly change, because who's their backers again? It's Panda, isn't it? It's Panda
Energy
and Energy.
General.
So, and there's only going to be so much money they're going to pump into a company when a company's failing. When they say, well, hang on a minute, this isn't a viable thing anymore. We're going to have to do something here. And obviously, because they have got bigger, they're obviously having to pay their talent more money. I mean, how much is it costing them to have Hulk Hogan, on the show, and Eric Bischoff, behind the scenes, and when Ric Flair was there? I mean, these are big superstars, and they're going to have to pay the money for them. So how long can they keep going, losing money, giving away house shows for free at Universal? So I think 2013 really is going to be a make or break year for TNA.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I never expected TNA to last. I mean, this is 2012 was TNA's 10th year in existence, and I never expected TNA to last 10 years because, I just can't understand how it's still around. Just financially, their TV doesn't draw. No one buys their pay-per-views. That barely anyone attends the house shows. They've got an extremely expensive roster. With stars like Sting and the former WWE stars. Financially, it doesn't kind of make sense, but that backers who are family members and everything. So I guess that's how it works out. But I can't predict how long TNA will be around because they've continually surprised me by still being around. But I wouldn't like to see them closed down or shut down or anything. But it's interesting. How long is TNA going to be around?
That's one thing important we should say is, on this show we don't seem to dedicate a lot of time to TNA, and that's not because we don't appreciate TNA, we don't like TNA, we love TNA to be better. That's the thing. We just can't seem to get inspired by it. And if they, improve the product, then we would give you more reviews and more segments on our show about it. So don't be angry that we're not interested in TNA, because we are. We watch it. We just can't seem to get as interested in it, I'm afraid. As opposed to Raw next year, who are going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary, which is hell of achievement. It's a very long-running TV show.
Longest running weekly episodic television show in history.
That's right. And I remember actually watching the very first one when it was in the very dingy Manhattan Centre. So that should be fantastic, and I'm sure WWE will put on a fantastic anniversary show for us as well to watch. Hopefully all the old stars will come back.
Yeah, sure, but I'm sure it won't become quite as big as the Raw 1000 episode coming so soon after that. But it seems like yesterday, since the 15th anniversary show, we'll have to see what the 20th anniversary entails.
And of course, the biggest show of the year is going to be WrestleMania 29. We have to see really what happens at the Royal Rumble first before they can really go into much. Before we can really know what's going to happen. But have they any matches sort of rumoured at the moment, Adam, for that?
Well, there's the rumoured matches so far have been mainly Brock Lesnar versus Triple H 2, a rematch from SummerSlam where Brock Lesnar defeated Triple H. Also, The Rock versus John Cena 2 is another rumoured match, this time for the WWE Championship, which I guess would stem from The Rock defeating CM Punk at the Royal Rumble, which seems to be the way that things are going. Randy Orton versus Sheamus for the World Heavyweight Championship is another match that's been flying around, and that's about it. The Undertaker's definitely going to be back, but not sure who his opponent will be. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing The Undertaker versus CM Punk, because I can't think of many other superstars on the roster who would be viable opponents.
Going back to Raw, we're going to have a hell of a start for January this year, because we're going to have a TLC WWE title match again between CM Punk, the reigning champion, and Ryback. That should be a good match. It's one we've looking forward to again. But the only thing with this match is really you sort of think, well, Ryback's not going to win because we're thinking The Rock's coming back to beat CM Punk at the Royal Rumble, aren't we? That's what we're sort of heading for at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they've already set the seeds for this match anyway. Of course, going back to July when CM Punk turned heel, but also on Raw, CM Punk's been wearing t-shirts that have been sort of taking shots at The Rock, and he also hosted a one of The Rock's movies on the USA Network. It was WWE Week last week, and CM Punk was belittling The Rock as he was presenting his film. So yeah, you can hardly suspend your disbelief on this one to a belief that the Ryback could walk away the WWE champion. But this, of course, is the original match which was scheduled for last weekend's TLC pay-per-view. So we'll have to see how this goes down when the carnage of TLC gets to Monday Night Raw.
And just before we finish this section, moving back onto TNA, one thing we should talk about TNA, and again, this is something that, it could have been so much better than what it actually was the angle with the Aces and Eights. Obviously, this is still ongoing, but they could have really done something here, I feel, but in the end, it was so drawn out and long-winded, it sort of has turned out to be nothing, really, hasn't it?
No, it's it's been going on for so long now, actually, and you think how many stables have TNA had in recent years, and they've all really gone nowhere. The Shield, for example, in WWE, of course, a lot, it's just a trio and not some big faction. But they've already been more entertaining and they've made more of an impact in wrestling than Aces and Eights have in the last 4, 5, 6 months now.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, it's a very very uninspiring and unentertaining storyline, which who knows where it's going, but it's not captivating me.
No, it's I think it's done its dash now. So hopefully 2013, it won't be too long before we, see them disbanded or them going in a different direction. Okay, we're going to take a very brief look at the what we think were the matches of the year in across the board. We're not going to go into too much detail over these because I'm sure you've seen them before, but we're going to mention them. Of course, we start off with The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell versus Triple H at WrestleMania. We recently had The Shield versus Team Hell No and Ryback, which was at the other week's TLC event. We had Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus. That was a 2 out of 3 falls.
Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, another match that took place at Extreme Rules. This one, the Anything Goes, No Holds Barred match, and probably one of the most unique matches in WWE history, and extremely entertaining.
And 2 matches here, both from WrestleMania. We had CM Punk versus Chris Jericho. Fantastic match there, and of course they had a running up feud to that, which sort of culminated in that match. And of course, who can forget the biggest build match of the year, which was Rock versus John Cena.
Going back to TNA now, Destination X. Austin Aries, when he won the TNA World Championship from Bobby Roode, was an excellent matchup. And also New Japan Pro Wrestling, King of Pro Wrestling, their pay-per-view, which was the first NJPW pay-per-view that we've been able to order internationally. That was for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, as Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Minoru Suzuki.
CM Punk also had a couple of stellar matches, both were versus Daniel Bryan. The first one was the Money in the Bank match, and the second one was with the special referee, AJ, and that was Over the Limit.
And also, having a look at our top wrestlers of the year, come up with a few names here from WWE and also TNA. One of the most standout heels of the year, and of course he's a babyface now, but Bully Ray.
Absolutely. I personally would have loved to see him stay as a heel, because I thought that he was a fantastic heel when they, especially as well, he's lost quite a bit of weight this year. He's definitely better in the ring. And I personally would have kept running with that, but he certainly had a standout year.
He's reinvented himself.
Definitely, absolutely. Of course, Ryback has had a hell of a year. He's done very well. He's risen to all the challenges that they've set for him in WWE. Obviously, he didn't get the title, but he's got a chance in January to do that in his TLC match versus CM Punk. So we'll see how that one goes. One of my favourites, Dolph Ziggler. He's especially towards the end of the year, he's had a more push. I think he was very underused, very underrated by WWE. But he still, of course, has his Money in the Bank opportunity. So hopefully 2013, we'll see a belt put on him.
Yeah, having especially defeated John Cena last weekend in the ladder match to again retain his Money in the Bank contract. 2013, well, I guess last weekend was pretty much the biggest victory of his career, and it seems like 2013 we're going to see Ziggler as the World Heavyweight Champion.
Sheamus, the Celtic Warrior, had a fantastic year, which started off at the Royal Rumble, which he won, which earned him a title shot at WrestleMania versus Daniel Bryan, which he won. The match was pretty terrible, lasting 18 seconds, and was the opener. But he's had a fantastic career, holding the championship for quite a while before dropping it to the Big Show. But I'm sure that their feud will probably continue into the new year, and he'll be wearing gold again.
Absolutely, and as a babyface, has been built as pretty much one of the top stars of the company. And although he no longer has the World Heavyweight Championship, I think 2013 we're going to see him with gold around his waist once again.
One of TNA's shining stars here, Bobby Roode, has had a pretty good year. He's over the last sort of year and a half, since really his breakup from James Storm and gone back into single competition. He's had a fantastic career, obviously holding the TNA Championship longer than anyone else. I'm hoping for good things from Bobby Roode, not just from himself, but also from the TNA management, and they give him some more opportunities because I think with the belt around his waist, it can only take the company forward.
Yeah, definitely Bobby Roode, one of my favourite superstars on the TNA roster. Him and Billy Ray are the only two TNA wrestlers on our list, and they're definitely the two stand out for me from the entire company. Roode, I think, is he just looks like a star. He's good in the ring, he's good on the mic, he's kind of the total package, and he's one superstar I'd really like to see actually make the transition to WWE, and I'd like to see what they would do with him there.
Absolutely. Back to WWE now. Perhaps no other superstar in wrestling has had more of a stellar year than CM Punk, winning the WWE World Championship last year, in fact, but of course he held that now. He's now into his second year, which is a fantastic achievement and statement from the WWE, putting their belt on the man for so long, stating this is the man in front of our company. We'll probably see that coming to an end early-ish in 2013 with his apparent match with The Rock build for the Royal Rumble. But even so, he's had with his heel turn as well, alliance with Paul Heyman. It's done him wonders, and he's going to have a great year next year too, I should think.
There's a couple of other superstars here who have joined WWE in 2012, and Damien Sandow, one of your new favourites, who.
Well, they brought him in obviously as very much like the Genius character, but this is more like the Genius with attitude, isn't it? Because Lanny Poffo played a fantastic camp heel as the Genius, but this guy Damien Sandow has, seems to have the brawn and the beef to back it up with, and also just like Lanny Poffo has some fantastic mic skills.
Yeah, but no frisbees.
No frisbees, that's right. No poems on the frisbees, but his apprentice, search for the apprentice, then continues. But I'm sure that especially as his impressive tag team run with Cody Rhodes as the Team Rhodes Scholars, will take them to hopefully some gold in 2013.
And another new superstar is Antonio Cesaro, the current United States champion, of course formerly known as Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah, I mean he's had a pretty good year. Hasn't set the world totally ablaze, but he's been fairly impressive. Maybe obviously he's got the US title at the moment. I can see in the future he may be having a bit more of a run towards the world, one of the world titles. So more to come from him, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's certainly very, very good in the ring. He's the current US champion. I think with him it's more of a kind of a slow build, perhaps. I think he's kind of got this sort of middle of the road gimmick as a heel at the moment, and I think he'll need something a bit more, I don't know, perhaps serious if he to get pushed to the main event level. But I'm really enjoying seeing Cesaro's work, and I think he's going to be a big player in the new year.
Okay, and the last one on the list is Daniel Bryan. Of course, he's mainly been in tag team competition here with his partner of Team Hell No, Kane, who deserves an honourable mention. Of course, the comedy angle certainly helped between these two. But Daniel Bryan is a hell of a wrestler, and also very popular at the back for the boys because they appreciate his wrestling skill. And I'm sure the angle with the angle, such as the comedy angle, will probably soon draw to a close in 2013, and maybe they can concentrate more on the tag team wrestling. But I'm sure there'll be more to come from Daniel Bryan and Kane.
Yeah, we definitely couldn't forget Daniel Bryan, since he's does appear in two of our match of the year candidates. He did have, although he's teaming with Kane at the moment with Team Hell No and doing very funny things with that, he has had some amazing singles matches this year in the feuds with CM Punk. And if we were talking about chant of the year, I think the whole yes chant would be definitely the most over chant of 2012.
Definitely. Okay, let's look at some wrestlers now, and we titled this section Wrestlers Who Make Us Change the Channel. These wrestlers are ones that don't inspire us, and quite frankly, we do change the channel when they're on, because, we're just There's something about them that we can't quite get, or just, we think they're overrated. Let's start with Brodus Clay. Now, they've made Brodus Clay into this Funkasaurus clown. The guy is not really a fantastic wrestler, and because of that, because he's a big guy, he's a monster. For me personally, they really should have kept him as a big monster. They should have let him destroy people. In many ways, he could have been, Ryback before Ryback was Ryback, because he's a big dude. He's a powerhouse. He's quite nimble for someone his size, I have to say. But instead, he's when he first became the Funkasaurus, it was a bit of a joke, and the entrance, got over. But really, that's all you can say about Brodus Clay is his entrance. And once the lights go back on, the match starts, the bell rings. It's usually a terrible match, a squash match, and it's over.
Yeah, as soon as the bell rings, no one cares. I mean, people still enjoy his entrance. I think he's just, he's a one-trick pony, really. I mean, his match just consists of basically, a minute and then a T-bone suplex and then a big splasher across body. I was very surprised. I was as surprised as anyone when he made his debut essentially as the Funkasaurus with his whole entrance and the Cameron and Naomi as his dancers. But not a lot to say about Brodus Clay. I mean, once his entrance is over, that's really it.
Okay, how do you make the one-man band crappier than it already is? Well, you add Drew McIntyre to it and Jinder Mahal and call them the three-man band. Heath Slater, for me, very overrated. Don't get it, really. I think it's absolutely terrible. It's basically a jobber. Perhaps they just didn't know what to do with him. Perhaps they thought, well, we're paying this guy this money, we best do something with him. Let's add Drew McIntyre to the mix and Jinder Mahal, making the three-man band. For me, it's a big thumbs down, a big...
Yeah, the thing is, the three guys that they don't really know what to do with. I mean, Jinder Mahal, he's been on NXT. Heath Slater, sort of, I guess they got tired of him being the one-man band. And Drew McIntyre, the guy with so much hype, a former Intercontinental Champion, but in the last 2 years, really, he's been doing absolutely nothing. So why not make a trio out of three people that they know nothing, don't know how to handle, and I don't know. I mean, it's quite interesting seeing Jinder Mahal come out as a rock star with a turban on and doing air sitar, but yeah, not quite sure about these three.
Enough said on them. Okay, the great Khali. I suppose it's difficult to do many things with him because he's probably one of the worst wrestlers ever to step in the ring for wrestling. Terrible. He's big in India in every sense of the word, but he's a popular in India, so I suppose that appeals to the WWE's universal audience, which is good for them. But they've put him in Hornswoggle at the moment, a bit more of a comedy act than a wrestling act. They've already got the Big Show there as their giant. So really, apart less, you can't have obviously them two wrestling every week. But he's just really all round terrible, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think this is a guy who will just keep appearing on these, these year in review shows. I mean, if we were doing this last year, I expect he'd be on that, and the same with the year before. It's just size and strength, but nothing else.
Okay, three now from TNA. Aces Nates, Brooke Hogan and Mr. Anderson. Aces Nates have already alluded to that we think it could have done a lot better than what it did. Another failed stable from TNA. It's a bit of a joke now, really, with all the members changing and everyone knowing really who's under the mask, such as with I can't think of his name now. Festus.
Luke Gallows.
Luke Gallows. Yeah. They had to sort of change it around him because everyone sort of guessed who he was. Brooke Hogan, I'm sorry, nothing.
Why is she there? Obviously, apart from being the daughter of Hulk Hogan.
Exactly, she's Hulk Hogan's daughter. That is it, really. I don't know whether it's to try and help her music career, but it's certainly doing nothing for TNA at all.
It's kind of hilarious to see her coaching some of the knockouts backstage.
Exactly, I mean, she doesn't belong. Personally, she just doesn't belong in wrestling, really. I don't know what she's doing there. End of the day, she's picking up a paycheck, which is costing, them TNA more money. It's his money they could be spending on proper talent. Mr. Anderson, when he was Mr. Kelly, WWE, it's the same gimmick, different name. It was a bit of a comedy, calling himself and everyone arseholes, but the guy is also not really a great wrestler. Again, once the entrance is over and the interviews are over, the in-ring product is very overrated. Going from overrated to underrated now, probably one of the most underrated wrestlers me and Adam have seen this year is Tenzai, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's gone from, he got such a good, a strong push when he returned to WWE as Tenzai. We saw him live in London defeat CM Punk on an episode of Raw. We've seen him defeat John Cena. But the fans didn't really want to embrace him. I mean, they kept chanting Albert, not sort of letting go of his past character. And he went to Japan and became, a genuinely good wrestler. And we were just amazed at how much he had improved since going to Japan when he returned to WWE earlier this year. We were really impressed with Tenzai. But the fans didn't seem to want to let go of his past, and he's really fallen flat now, and he's basically a jobber.
Absolutely. Okay, this is we asked you this on our website, and we've got some answers back from you, some feedback. We asked you which was your favourite wrestling theme music and your worst, and you said your favourite ones was CM Punk, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, Bobby Roode and James Storm. You liked all their ring music the best. And the worst ones, Adam?
Jeff Hardy, Ryback, Bully Ray, Mr. Anderson and Rob Van Dam. And I think Rob Van Dam can safely get the award for the worst music in the history of professional wrestling.
Absolutely. Just by putting Terminator on every word doesn't really make a theme music, but there you go. And also we looked at the events of the year. Raw 1000 was right up there, along with Extreme Rules. TLC was obviously the most recent one, and that was a very, very good pay-per-view. Some excellent matches.
WrestleMania, of course. I mean, it was fairly hit and miss this year's WrestleMania, but it was still a very, very solid show, and you can't really beat the spectacle of WrestleMania. And of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We mentioned their very first pay-per-view, King of Pro Wrestling, early this year in October. That was a very, very, very solid card from top to bottom, and definitely one of the most enjoyable events I've seen in 2012. So on the last episode of the Hot Tag, we were giving away a copy of Mick Foley's new book, which was illustrated by Jerry the King Lawler, A Most Miserable Christmas, which has superstars involved in it like John Cena and Wade Barrett and of course The Miz. And our question, keeping up with the Christmas theme, was: in his first run in the World Wrestling Federation, Balls Mahoney played an anti-Christmas character by what name? The answers we gave were Jingle Balls, Balls Humbug, and Santa Claus, and of course the answer was Santa Claus. And the winner hails from San Diego, California, and is Taylor Brannigan. So congratulations, Taylor, and we'll be contacting you very, very shortly about your copy of Mick Foley's A Most Miserable Christmas.
Well done to Taylor. This week's competition, again with a festive theme, and this week's prize is an excellent prize. In fact, I'll be sad to give it away. It's the new edition of the WWE Encyclopedia, updated and expanded from Dorling Kindersley. Basically, got a profile of everyone that's ever been in WWE. Excellent reading, loads of great pictures as well. Next week's question, right? A few weeks ago, we asked a question relating to the gobbledygooker at Thanksgiving. And as it's turkey related, this week's question is: who played the gobbledygooker? Who was actually in the suit? And the three answers are A. Howard Finkel, B. Brooklyn Brawler, and C. Hector Guerrero. Now, if you're smart and you were listening, you'd have actually found out that I revealed the answer to this a few weeks ago when we ran that question. So if you go back to goec.net and look at the old shows, you will find the answer in there if you don't already know it. And you can private message your answer to us on Facebook at the Hot Tag Podcast Facebook page. Just PM your answer and your address details, etc. there. Or you can email us at
hottagmailbag@yahoo.com. Same applies. Send your name, address, and your answer to that email address.
Yeah.
And that about does it for our year in review episode of the Hot Tag. We're looking forward to what the world of wrestling holds for us in 2013 in terms of WWE, TNA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, of course, had a few mentions on this show. And we hope you enjoyed our shows this year. We started in, when was it now? August, I think?
Yeah, it's been going nearly, best part half a year now, really.
Yeah, already. Pretty incredible. Thanks so much for the feedback we've received, all the questions we've received, all the competition entries over the last few months. And most of all, thanks for listening. And a big thanks, as always, to Barry Wilkinson at episode3.co.uk for providing us with our Hot Tag podcast logo. We're next going to be here on GoIt.net on January 5th. Again, we're going to try and get that interview with Rob Feinstein as soon as we can. Also, we're also working on many more interviews also for the new year. So definitely big things coming for the Hot Tag in 2013.
I'd like to also thank you as well, and also just to point out again that the views expressed here are just the views of two fans, wrestling fans like yourself. We don't think these are definitely the way things should be. We just think this is our opinion. So we want to hear your opinions as well. So please send your questions in for the mailbags, your views on wrestling, your views on our show. Also, we'd love to know about which talent, because we know a lot of talent obviously goes on GoEct.net for the latest news in professional wrestling. We'd love to know if you're a talent, whether it's the high levels of WWE or TNA, or if you're an indie wrestler. We'd love to know what you think about the show, and perhaps you'd like to come on the show. We're more welcome to have you. But we'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you get everything you asked for from Santa Claus. Santa Claus, yeah. And I'm hoping that the present under the tree from Adam is a pair of signed Kurt Hennig boots that I've been pestering him for years, but I very much doubt it will be. So Merry Christmas to you, have a Happy New Year, and see you in 2013.
Shall see you then.